Hey everyone, this is GosuDad, and welcome back to Season 5 of the Blizzard Online Ladder. Welcome back to my adventures playing 1v1, now as Terran. This is a Terran versus Terran game on the map Tal'darim Altar LE. So at this point, I know I'm in bronze level, and my opponent is Terran, so I know this is Terran versus Terran. This is a very large map. We'll take a quick tour of the map. So everybody starts with their own base, and we're actually in cross position, so the very longest position we could possibly be in. Making a comment about this being a nice big map, and what we see first is a very close natural expansion. There's a small entryway to the natural, and then from the natural out to the world is a really big entrance ramp here, and another entrance ramp here over to this third blocked by rocks. If you go around the edges, you can go by this other third up here, which is a little more nestled away, slightly hidden by these protective bushes. But in general, a very big map, and in this case, as I mentioned in my last cast, I'm going to be focusing on economy and production. My opponent asking if I'm very good at this game or not, explaining that I've been demoted down into bronze. Do not worry. I'm guessing he's in bronze too. I think he was. But the gist is I'll be focusing on economy and then on production, and this is a long game. We're going to bump the speed just a little bit here. So in this game, I decided, since we're in since this is Tal'darim Altar, a very long map, and players down in bronze like to go for longer games, although, I mean, some people like to go for that quick cheese, but in this case he's going for a double barracks start. I decided to go for a super fast expand, so here I am expanding on probably 14 or 15 at this point, don't know exactly when it was, but I'm expanding very early. So the idea is that I'm going to expand, and because it takes so long for my opponent to move across the map, you can see his SCV making his way around the map looking for me, that by the time he finds out that I have fast expanded, I will be at an economic advantage. So one of the advantages to having two command centers is that you're able to build two SCVs at a time, and once they're both orbital commands, you can do two orbital commands at a time. So you can look that really cost me in the supply world. I'm already down by a couple of supply at this point, but I should be able to catch up fairly quickly now that this command center is done. And now checking at the Army tab, we can see that in Army supply I am behind by quite a bit. So that's one of the real disadvantages of going for that. Just pause this game real quick. Going for that fast expand is I am behind in Army. Now if you look at my opponent, he's staying on one base, as you can see here, and he's got his orbital and going for a double gas, which is kind of interesting. Looks like 2 harvesters on each gas, which is, I believe, 80% efficiency on each one, so that's quite a bit. Let's check out the income tab. So looking at the income tab, we're actually on par. I'm actually a little bit ahead on minerals, but we're basically on par with each other at this point. And that's something to remember, is that it will take some time for this second command center to really kick in as far as value. Let's turn off that flyover so we can see what's going on here. So if we go back up to my base and look at the number of SCVs on minerals, I have... okay, it's kind of hard to see here. Ooh, can I deselect that? Okay, try this again. Looks like I have about 11 SCVs on the minerals, and there are 8 mineral patches. So there's 3 SCVs that could be at this second expansion, giving me a little bit more mineral income. And as you can see on the income tab, I am high on minerals. Now my opponent went for double gas, and I am now on double gas as well. It looks like 2 harvesters and 1 harvester, but I have, let's go back to that Army tab, I am now 22 workers to 15. So this is that big advantage from having that extra double expansion before my opponent. Now, of course, big disadvantage here is that he has 2 barracks that have been building Marines at a consistent rate, and he's now going for a 3rd. So that's the gamble that I'm taking with this economy build, is I'm going to try to risk this early engagement from my opponent with these Marines, because right now he's got 6 coming up to attack, and I have nothing. I have no Marines. I'm just finishing building these 2 barracks, and this barracks isn't even building anything, although it looks like I've got a rally point to that SCV, which is almost dead. But okay, we'll keep things going here. Now these Marines, I can't remember if they're going to go all the way. Okay, so 2 of them are going to split off. They passed that first Marine, so my first Marine is off somewhere else, and then here come these 2 Marines. Now this is a critical point if you're going for some kind of early economy build, is that at this point, I mean, look at that, look at our supply. Our supply are very similar, 24, 26, and if you look at that Army supply, you know, he's up by quite a bit. But you know, again, look at this worker supply. I'm at 22, so at this point the majority of my army are workers. And if you look at an SCV, their attack damage is 5, and the attack damage of a Marine is, 5. So that means that on the first hit from each of these units, they're actually on par. Marines with a hit points of 45 and SCVs with 45 as well, but SCVs can repair themselves. So SCVs at this point in the game with this small number of Marines can actually act as a defense. Now of course he has Marines on the way. Oddly enough, this Marine is actually selected by him. That's kind of interesting. So he's got Marines on the way, another one coming up here, so he's quickly going to have 7. And, I mean, look at this. I'm already building a tech lab on this barracks. It's kind of an interesting choice. But I have 1 Marine about to be finished, and I think that's one of the key points about StarCraft, about this position that I'm in at this point, is that you may think that this is it. I have no army, right? I have no army. I'm going to lose. But we'll see what happens here. So that Marine gets taken off pretty quickly, and I'm continuing to make SCVs. If you look at my production queue, I'm making 2 Marines now at a time, because those are finished. These SCVs from the base came back in here to try to repair this, and they're not going to save this barracks. It's going to blow up. But you can see back here I'm building a bunker and putting down meals, trying to keep up that production, and here come in the flock of SCVs to take out these Marines. Now a couple of more Marines came in as reinforcements, but these SCVs, look at that, they're able to chase the Marines away. Marines coming back for a second round, but now I've got some other Marines that were built from these 2 bunkers to hold them off. So the SCVs actually coming to the rescue to save me there. Now there's this bunker never quite got finished. So we're going to be replacing that barracks, and now he's got another set of 6. So now look at this. At the range that he's sending these, he's running 3 bunkers here, or 3 barracks here, and I will be running 3 as well, canceling that bunker and building it over here instead. So now his Marines are coming up for a second round. We'll slow down the speed here. So now I've got quite a few, but he's still outnumbering me by quite a bit. But at this point, if you look at the supply count, we're pretty close. Looking at the worker supply, I still have quite a few more workers than he does. Now, of course, at this point, my workers are being killed. And now that this bunker's done, we'll see what happens. So I've got 3 barracks working right there, a 4th one on the way, and here come in the workers to try to scare him off. And at this point, he's realizing that I'm not afraid to send in these workers to attack. These workers going back, trying to regroup. Now, don't forget, on their first hit, the workers are pretty strong. Now at this point we've got 3 Marines inside that bunker, so I should be able to hold them off pretty well. And here's this hero SCV chasing away this Marine. Ooh, every time he hits him, oh, he's going to stay and fight. Oh, maybe not. He's trying to micro him away. I don't think he's going to make... I think my SCV is going to die. But at this point I've kind of scared him off, but here he is with another set of Marines. Now at this point I am running 2 bases. Now my worker supply got reduced quite a bit here, but I have a much higher potential income than he does, running off of 4 barracks here. Back at his base he's got 4 as well. So at this point we're fairly on par, except that I've got an expansion and I've got 2 orbital commands and he doesn't. So that's a pretty big deal. Now at this point early in the game, let's go ahead and speed up this time. At this point earlier in the game, you know, I think that may not seem as crucial as it is, because basically if you go for a fast expand and you hold off on that first wave of your opponent, you're going to be ahead by 2 bases, and you're just going to skyrocket in that supply count, in that ability to make things. SCV coming down, and it looks like that group of Marines, all Marines coming in here, they are not upgraded whatsoever. Neither are mine, I believe. This bunker getting some nice hits as they come up the ramp. Now, I think they're going to kill that SCV before he finishes the bunker. Yes, they do. And so now he's got a fair amount of Marines. But at this point, he's in the base. So I've got 4 barracks pumping out Marines. I've got 4 Marines in here that are at full health. And of course, I've got a whole army of SCVs that I am not afraid to use to repair these barracks, to slow down these Marines, the damage these Marines are doing. Here come out the other Marines from the... Oh, I had 2 bunkers full of Marines. Look at that. So these Marines are going to clean them up pretty well. And at this point, he's calling off the attack, sending his Marines back. Now, at this point, he knows I'm on 2 base, and he's got a real decision to make, and that's whether to pursue this 1 base aggression. Now he's building tanks, and researching that siege tech, speed up the time there, or is he going to expand and try to catch up in the economy game? And you know, if I was in his position, I'm not really sure what I would do. If you look here on the supply tab, you can see that I am quite a bit higher in worker supply, and my army supply is catching up. Now, of course, another thing to note on his side, okay, so here we go. Now that I have 2 bases running, I can add a factory and more barracks. So at this point, I have more barracks, and I'm matching his factory. So income-wise, take a look at the income tab. See, look at this income difference. More gas, and more significantly, quite a few more minerals. And that's the power of having those double orbital commands that you can send mules down 2 at a time on whatever mineral patch you want to increase. So at this point, I'm ahead in my... I guess what I would say is I'm ahead in my capability. Now, as to whether I'm going to be ahead in practice, that's, you know, going to be the interesting thing to see here. Both of us behaving very much like Bronze League players. So he's coming in with a very large set of Marines. That's two panels worth. So another trick here in StarCraft 2 is you can select your units and just simply count how many rows, and that'll give you times 8 is how many units you have. So that's 24, and 23 is 27. 2 tanks. These tanks do have siege mode, so he's going to be able to do some pressure here, I think. But I've got these 2 bunkers which are loaded up. Now his siege mode tanks should be able to take those out if he's able to get vision on the high ground. But if you look at the layout of this entrance ramp, if he puts his tanks within range of these bunkers, he has to bring up units high enough up to this entrance up here so that they can have vision to the high ground, or to use a scan from his 1 orbital command. But in his case, that 1 orbital command is being used for both mules and scans as well. So you know, that really does cost him to use those scans purely for vision. Now in my case, I've got a pretty good set of Marines as well, and you can see I've only got 1 tab's worth. But if you add in these, we're pretty close. But he's got the siege tanks, and I've got this nice Hellion to cause some damage there. And looking at the upgrade, my Marines have been upgraded attack and armor, and his Marines have not been upgraded, nor have his tanks. So we'll see how this goes for him. First tank setting up on the corner, I'm expecting. Okay, there we go. So it looks like he's going to have both tanks set up on the low ground, quite a distance. If you look at the range of that first tank, it barely hits this bunker. Okay, he's going to try to get a little bit closer. At this point, I don't think I can see anything of what's going on. Okay, I see that tank setting up. Now he's going to be able to hit these Marines pretty good. But see, you see, there you go. See, his tanks, they don't have vision. He does that scan to see them. The Marines instantly come. I think I saw him unsieging. The Marines are going to come down and form a nice little concave up here. And even this bunker is able to do some damage to these units over here on the side. So you can see that although I came down to a pretty good defense, he's still got quite a bit of Marines and this tank, which is going to be able to take out that bunker on the hill. And ooh, even hit this bunker up here. That's pretty good. And these Marines starting to come in, and here again I am on the defense, having to bring in units from the rear. These Reapers going to do a pretty good job. Now notice there's only a couple of Marines left, and this tank now completely undefended. 4 units in that bunker and 4 units here. These Marines looks like they're going to come down and take out that tank and clean that up. A couple of backup Marines on their way to stop that tank from being killed. Now of course the tank is too juicy of a prize to let go, but ooh, he's taking the tank back to continue that pressure. Now again though, to get up to this bunker and do damage, he's going to have to get up on the high ground or put down a scan, and since he's attacking into my base, I am continually making units to defend the base. So, ooh, looks like I was putting Reapers over on this side, and I've got quite a bit of production facility. Now continuing to stream in units, trying to keep that pressure on me, but if you think about this from his position, and it's kind of an interesting position that he's in right here, is that I've been on 2 base for a while. And if we look at the supply count, my workers are now, I'm staying ahead on that worker count. Even though I've had to bring in workers and the workers have been killed, I'm staying ahead on that worker count. So even though our armies are the same, I have a lot more capability, a lot more potential than he does. Now, of course, being in Bronze League, not necessarily going to take advantage of that potential as well. Like I could be researching upgrades, etc. Now I'm a little low on gas, and you can see because I still only have 1 harvester on that gas, 2 there, and no gas at the expansion. So very heavy on the mineral count, which is why I don't have more upgrades for the Marines. Now, of course, you saw that I did build this armory, which the intent there was to support building upgrades. But you know, he's again at an interesting position because he's tried to keep up pressure with these 4 barracks. You can see they're rallied over to the other side. And he did build a couple of tanks. Now finally built an engineering bay, and now building a starport. I don't know how long this has been around, but I'm guessing not too long. Now he's got that rallied up to here. But here's an interesting question for him. So he's solidified that I am on 2 base. He's been putting on some pressure, so there's a fair chance I'm staying here. But if you look at his vision, what has he seen of the map so far? He has not scouted out this base over here to see that I've gone for a 3rd, and he's established that I am an expanding player, and he hasn't checked out this expansion over here. So for all he knows, I'm on 3, maybe even 4 bases, and he's been keeping pressure up, so there's a fair chance that they're undefended. So he hasn't scouted me out completely. Now, of course, if you look on my side, I haven't scouted out anything. I really have no idea where he's at or what he's up to. But again, at this point, what I've been trying to keep going back to here is that, so he's bringing in these units to try to set up a contain. But what is he really containing me from? He's containing me from coming out this front door, but he's not containing me from going over to this expansion over here. He is, I would say he's putting on some pressure that prevents me from going back up here, because this front door area is a pretty common access route to a bunch of places. But putting his contain at the bottom of the entrance ramp out here, I don't think really puts a lot of pressure on me. There's no pressure from me necessarily to come down here right away. Now, of course, with my limited vision, I can't tell what's down there, so I have no idea what's coming my way. I have no idea if he's expanded. I probably assume that he has expanded to his natural, but of course he hasn't. So putting the playback on, and we're really gonna have to speed through this. These Marines go down, finish off that tank, haha, and that was totally worth it to kill that tank. And again, building lots of units. Ooh, double Reapers coming down from the top. They should be good for all those Marines. Marines coming from across the way. He's still staying on those, just building lots of Marines, sending over that medevac. Marines fighting out in the open field here. Oh, that's kind of fun. We're going to go back, and so now, oh, now he's sending them back. He's rallying them back somehow to this medevac. So at this point, again, this 1 base pressure, as time goes on, he's losing here. And here you can see I'm expanding to that 3rd. I'm trying to get preconcealed, a bunch of scans going down for myself, looking to see, has he expanded? Previous games that I've played, it's been very, and he's building a bunker here to try to hold off any kind of counterattack. But, and this Reaper checking out all the expansions to see if he's expanded somewhere. So in previous games that I've played on Tal'darim Altar, I've lost 2 ninja expansions. You can look on the minimap, there are so many expansions on this map that, I've lost by thinking my opponent was on 1 base or 2 base, and been surprised to find out, he actually had a secret expansion somewhere. But in this case, my opponent's just staying on 1 base, and got a nice full set of medevac, 16 Marines. They're going to be able to come up here and see this expansion. I don't know if I can see their... Can I do this to see their rally point? No, it doesn't look like it. So he's checking expansions now on the left-hand side, so he's going to be able to find that one. And now I'm starting to establish vision. These Marines apparently don't know where they're going. They need to be over here next to that Zelnaga tower. But a couple of Marines starting to be spread out, and this Reaper checking the expansions, look to see if he can find anything. He's got these medevacs hidden over here on the left-hand side, which is not a bad idea, but, he could go in and... what's funny is so these Marines are going to start shooting at these rocks, and his drop is going to come in, and I didn't change the Marines to shoot the other Marines. So his Marines are going to be able to kill my Marines for probably trying to kill the rocks. Retreating with this expansion, but I have a pretty good force here. Looks like these guys were actually going to come down to do some pressure, but bringing them back, now these medevacs being loaded up, and to a basically undefended rear. And he finds a nice little pocket where the towers don't quite, but these 2 towers were able to take out both medevacs, and moving the SCVs away. There's really not a lot of minerals here, so really at that point, moving the SCVs away is not a big deal, especially since they can come down to this 3rd that I've expanded to. And bringing in these Marines to defend, and a tank just for good measure. Now this tank will be very interesting later on. Now I'm going to pause right here to show something kind of cute. So because I'm on the higher graphical settings, these trees are very leafy, I guess I would say. And I've been building tanks at this point for quite a while, sending them down to this rally point, and not realizing that, surprise, the tanks are back here because they got stuck behind this barracks. And I think later on in the game there's like 3 tanks stuck back here that I've been building tanks. I'm like, where are they? There's like only 1 tank out here. And it's because I didn't know where my tanks were going. There's another tank over there. There's actually, looks like there's there's 3 tanks, 2 tanks there and 1 tank there. Look at that. So, okay, so Marines hanging out back there, and I've moved these SCVs over to the expansion, and the income is just insane at this point. Now he's finally Now, at first, I think when I saw this somehow on a scan, maybe I was like, oh, he's finally expanding, but he hasn't expanded at all. Actually, he's just moved that main command center over. So he really, and there's an expansion. Well, that's a good idea. So he's finally starting to expand. I've got units at 3 of the Zelnaga towers, supposed to be 4. These guys really need to be over there. So trying to throw out this rock with 1 Marine, or 2 Marines, that's not going to work very well. But at this point, you know, the game's basically done. You can look at the supply count. I'm double supply of what he's got, so it's just a matter of time. But I thought this game was a very interesting game as far as, you know, looking at that difference between the fast expand versus that 1 base pressure. And really a couple of times he had a really good chance. And so I'm going to slow this down. I think this is a pretty interesting point in the game. He knows I'm on 3 bases, especially because he can see the little rings on the mini-map. Excuse me. You can see the rings on the mini-map, so you can tell that I'm on 3 bases, and he's now on 2, which is a good idea. And now he's bringing these. I think I brought in some Marines to try to kill these guys off. And he knows that I've got this little expansion over there. I think he can see. I guess he can't.
Supply depots required.
So he's bringing in this large group to come and take me out. Now, that's not a bad idea, because at this point, he knows that he's far behind in the economy game, and I am very spread out between the 2 bases. So if he can come in and cause enough damage with this single kind of a death ball type of force, and he really needs a couple of medevacs, especially if he's going to lose this one just to these little tower things. Oh, that's such a waste. So all of these Marines, a couple of tanks, it's a pretty formidable force, but now of course he's running into emplaced siege tanks, which are doing quite a bit of damage, and he really needs to just go ahead and bring them in. His Marines don't have stem, and they are upgraded quite a bit, which is good, and I think we're on par for upgrades. And so you can look at this, see how much damage he's done with these Marines, and this tank set up in the back. He's done a tremendous amount of damage. Of course, these 3 tanks not going to do much good hidden in the trees. But at this point, he's done a fairly good job of pushing in, and with these 2 bases up and running, a couple of SCVs just sitting there, if you look at the income tab, or the resources tab, he's caught up quite a bit, and he's catching up on that supply. Now this tank back here is going to do a tremendous amount of damage because he's leaving these units here in range of him. Now of course he can't see what else is going on. He really needs to move these guys a little bit further south, a little safer, but of course he may be remembering that there's a bunker over here. So every hit from this siege tank is making up for the fact that I have no army back in this base. All of these units going back, I basically don't have anything here. But as long as these units stay over here and not taking out that tank is doing a tremendous amount of damage. 21 kills for that 1 tank, and the SCVs are coming in to gain vision for the tank and taking out that Thor, which is a huge win in that economy game. Now in his case, continues to stream up units, which is not bad, and at this point I'm not sure he's really behind necessarily that much in the economy side, because he's taken out the natural. He's forced me out of this position here at the 3rd. My main base is out, so all I've got is this mining base over here, which my SCVs aren't mining at all, and he's got a pretty good army. If you look at that supply count, we are 90 to 45, but he does have his army now spread out. Of course, these Marauders are perfect for running into an emplaced siege tank, and going to do a terrible amount of damage there. But he is now on 2 base, so technically he has more economy than I do. Let's check out that income tab. He has a lot more economy than I do, but with that simple push. And checking out the army tab, I really... Okay, well actually I have 59 supply. I think all my guys are like really spread out around the map. Excuse me. Oh, I forgot about these Banshees over here, and these SCVs. Again, SCVs chasing off Marines. Now these Marines are pretty upgraded though. That's probably not the best idea here. And a medevac just coming to see what's going on. It's kind of random. And 1 Marine to make sure that I'm not going to expand over here, which is not a bad idea. And he knows that I am mining like crazy off of this base. You can see that I have no minerals, lots of gas. Now, of course, back at his base, he's got a lot of resources. So at this point, he could sit back a little bit and try to regroup, but he's going to go over here and try to take care of this barrack. So I'm successfully distracting him around the map, trying to keep him away while I try to rebuild this army. Now, a lot of my production structures were killed back there, so I am down to just a couple of, looks like I'm building a thing that, no, I think I just missed something important. What did I miss? I'm assuming I missed Banshees? No, something like that. Okay, so he's trying to take out this barracks and pull him back. Oh, here we go. So Banshees at this point, I'm taking advantage of all that massive resource count, building double Banshees off of 2 starports, and trying to rebuild that army as fast as I can. I don't have as many production structures as I mentioned before, as I did earlier, and so that's a huge hindrance. And now, at this point, he can really be pumping out stuff, and he really should be. I mean, he's got so many resources. He really needs to be ramping up on that. Now, let's look at that, queuing 5 Banshees. I mean, at this point, he could build, instead of building all 5 at once, he could build a second starport, etc., etc. But, and he's sending those Banshees up to my base, which is a great idea, except that I believe I may have, oh no, that's a sensor tower. So, 4 Banshees now over on the right-hand side, so these Banshees are just an attack waiting to happen. Now he's going to put on some pressure here, which is good. He really needs to keep that medevac back. And at this point, I'm going to see this Banshee coming up. Now, of course, as soon as I see that coming up to this base, okay, there we go. Come on. React, react, react. Okay, I did not react as soon as I really should have. Oh, maybe I see this little red dot over here. I'm not sure. At some point, I get the hint. Oh, maybe I should... okay, maybe I see the second Banshee. Okay, so I missed the first one. So I see the second Banshee going by, and should be seeing towers coming up. No. Okay, maybe I see the third Banshee? This is terrible. So, 6 Banshees here. And at this point, we're settling in, and you know he really could be rebuilding his force to cause some damage. But wow, look at that! I just really not okay. The third Banshee goes by, and looking okay. Wow, that is so terrible. The third Banshee passes, and I catch it and finally start building towers. So he really could have caused some damage with the first couple. But once I see those Banshees on their way, I'm going to send this nice little flock in to his base, and that's just endgame. I mean, really, at this point, I have so much more supply than he does, army-wise, etc., etc. But I mean, look at this worker supply. I mean, he really did cut me down quite a bit. Only 32 workers compared to 23, so we were actually fairly close. Now, if it wasn't for this, I mean, you could argue maybe a little cheap cloaky maneuver I have here with the Banshees and taking out the engineering bays, preventing him from having detection, except for those scans. He would have been okay. But and scaring away his Banshees with my towers and a couple Marines. So, that's pretty interesting. Okay, now here he goes. Now he's could have a pretty good push here, bringing in SCVs and the Thors and the Marines. If he had, yes, he doesn't have enough scanning energy. So these cloaked Banshees just really cause so much trouble when you don't have detection. But here he is setting up a very large force. Now, you may be tempted to think, he's dead, right? He's doesn't have anything left, but this is a pretty big force, and I see that force coming over with my groups at the sensor towers, and my big force is trying to come the other direction. So he's coming in, taking some time to stop. He should need to go ahead and attack there. So he'll be able to clean up this crowd very quickly. Now, as you can see, all of his units are bunched up in the back. He just needs to move a little bit forward, and then he can let more of them be in range of each other. And these SCVs are actually attacking and doing damage themselves, which is great. Taking a look at the Thors, are not too damaged, so that's okay. And the SCVs going in for the attack. Now, I'm looking closer into the screen. His SCVs are not attacking. I'm not quite sure why they're not attacking. I think they may have been targeted down on a particular unit, and when that unit was dead, they stopped attacking. But look at those SCVs. He's doing a terrible amount of damage to these units. He's going to be able to take out this Thor almost basically with SCVs. 3 Thors to 1. That's not going to work out very well for him, and these SCVs can now turn around and repair this Thor. He's got a lot of resources. At this point, the Banshees have done their work of basically destroying the base behind him. So I really think that push that he did was a perfectly good push, and now he's still trying to build Marines as reinforcements, which is a great idea. And look at that, he's even got them rallied to each other, which is good as well. Now, of course, unfortunately, they're walking by these Marines and getting killed. But, 2 Banshees, 3 Thors, and a couple of guys. Now, he's been chasing me around the map at this point. So I think this is not too bad. Now, okay, now you can't go into the base this direction without medevacs and towers can see Banshees, and that's just a real waste, And with those Banshees dead, he doesn't have vision up to the high ground. And this little force over here is going to take care of them, but I mean, really, even at that point, you know, even with just 33, you know, I think he had a real possibility of doing quite a bit of damage. You know, my terrible bronze level skills, you know, I think he had a real chance there at, you know, at least bringing the game to yet another standstill. But again, you know, Banshee cheese all the way. That'll you know, kind of end the game. Without detection, he's really stuck. You know, got this guy over there. So without detection, he's stuck, and with tons of money on both sides. You know, putting down several expansions at once. So, so that's game, and just look at that time, 48 minutes. Now, most of that was not, there was a little bit of passivity on both of our parts, but quite a bit of it was fairly dynamic, and I do applaud my opponent for really putting the pressure on with those two bases. But as you can see, if you don't do enough damage with that one base attack, if you're down on expansions, you are going to lose in that long game. But of course, you know, in the Bronze League, that's never a sure thing. As you saw, there were several times where he was very close to taking me out. But these, you know, Banshees just kind of, I don't know, mixed feelings. It's nice when you're using Banshees on someone else, but always kind of nasty to be on the receiving end of it. But yeah, he did a very good job of keeping me honest as an expanding player. And I mean, when you look at the game in general, he really did keep me out of being on more than 2 expansions at a time. And you know, these kinds of expanding games really push the limits of the multitasking. And I think this last little battle is going to do it. This is his only army that's left, and GG's for him. So yeah, kind of a long cast, long game, really long game, and hope that was interesting for those of you that are following along on my casting. And again, I think an interesting example of that economy style, which, I mean, admittedly, in the beginning, most of your army is SCVs, and you have to be prepared to use them as defense if needed. But if you're able to pull through that first, okay, maybe that first, not just a couple minutes, first couple of attacks, you can pull out a win in the end. So I would call that a win for Buddha's SC2 Pyramid, Economy and Production. We'll see how that goes for the rest of the season. Alright, this is GosuDad signing off, and we'll talk to you guys next time.